What's up, guys? Welcome back to the next episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. Today, we go into the next group to go over the draft rankings for 2025. Today, we're going to try to get the offensive line done. Now, normally, I would do two positions. We did all the running backs. I did my top 10 running backs. Today, we're kind of going to go over the offensive line. There is a little bit of a narrative that's wrong when it comes to the offensive line. It doesn't have the top end guys like last year where you just knew clear cut, this was this, you're all set to go rock and roll. It's got a lot of guys that you're banking on the potential and the coaching. But I really believe this year's draft is deep at offensive line and defensive line, depending on the potential that is in front of you. So we're going to get the offensive line done today. It's going to be all of them. Tackles, guards, centers. All three positions. We're going to get them done. Let's check out who we think has the hype in 2025. Here we go. All right, guys, here we go. So we're going to start out with centers, and I am really excited because it is Monday. I just got done mowing the grass for the first time this year. Soccer practice, we got the first soccer practice of the year for my team tonight. So really good day. 65 degrees outside, sunny, absolutely gorgeous. But we're going to talk some football, and we're going to open with the centers on the offensive line. Now, there's nobody that is necessarily up at the top. There's no Tyler Lindenbaums or Creed Humphreys. We don't have those guys sitting at the top. But there are guys that have the potential, like a Drew Daltman, a Tanner Bertoli, guys that they just did their job in college, and that's all you can ask them to do in the NFL too. There's not a guy that's overly dominant. Jeff Saturday was not an overly dominant center, but he had a long career as the center for the Indianapolis Colts. Olin Kreutz was a very dominating center for the Chicago Bears. It just depends on how you're built, the way you were taught, and just what you can do. But every single one of these guys is 6'3" or taller. So we've got no 6-foot centers in this one. It's 6'3" or taller. These are some big guys. So I'm just going to run down. These aren't going to be my top 5 centers, but guys that I'm looking at potentially to make an impact if they get drafted 4th round, 5th round, because I think the centers are going to potentially drop. The two guys that I think will not drop, Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia. I definitely don't think he's going to drop out of the 2nd round. I think a team will absolutely draft him middle to late 2nd round. I believe having his ability, just being from Georgia, they know that he is going to be a guy that can come in. And do you pay a 2nd round pick for a 2nd string offensive lineman? The answer is yes. And why would that be? Because injuries on the offensive line have killed teams in the past. You need to have depth on the offensive line, and you might as well have cheap depth that can still help you win. So, end of the 2nd round, I'm looking at teams like the Rams. Last year, injuries killed them. Get a backup center. He can play guard. He's definitely a better pass protector right now than he is a run blocker. His feet don't necessarily stay underneath him when he's trying to drive and run downhill and really move the pile. But he can grow into that. You can teach that. Another guy that I don't think is going to really drop is going to be Jake Majors from Texas. Watched him no less than 5 games. Watched the highlights of another 2 games. I really like Jake Majors. His issue is going to be is run. His issue is going to be run as well. But so did Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday was not a great run blocking center. Cushberry in Tennessee has not been a great run blocking center. There are certain centers that are better in one or the other. Well, teams can draft for that. So if he's not a great runner, but you love him when it comes to pass protection, smart, decisive, can read the blitz, as the center, that's important. Both of these guys, Jared Wilson and Jake Majors, I love as late second round picks. They may fall to the 3rd round depending on how desperate teams are at the end of the 2nd round, but they're both going to be picked on day 2, 100%. Another guy that I think will be picked on day 2, but maybe not till the 3rd round, mid-3rd round, is going to be Seth McLaughlin from Ohio State. Now, everybody watched Ohio State a ton last year. Fox Big Noon Kickoff was there forever, and it was, we've watched it a ton. The reality is, he's good enough. He is good enough. He does his job. You're not looking at a lot of high highs. You're not looking at a lot of low lows. He's a very monotone player, and monotone players are not bad. They just don't get the hype. Tanner Bertolli comes out of Wisconsin. I'm thrilled when the Colts picked him last year. And yes, I'm using him a lot because he's a center. Creed Humphrey, Lindenbaum. Like, these guys may not have had such a high-profile look, but they just did their job. From Iowa and Wisconsin. Like, these are the schools where you get guys that are they just do what they do. You're not sitting way up here. You're not sitting way down here. He's going to play that way every game, and it's going to look the same every single game. So what? Let it be that way. Let it be that way. If you guys remember the Pouncey brothers, one of them played more monotone than the other, and I watched Florida for a long time, and I always felt that Florida Pouncey had a lot more drive in his legs, so he was a better run blocker. But both of them just kind of did their job. You're on the Steelers, and it kind of works out. But then you've got guys that have been drafted to the Steelers here recently where the offensive line coach is just bad and nobody's been developed. And then once they get a chance to get out of Pittsburgh, this is the huge thing, Dan Moore goes to Tennessee. He gets out of Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin is a great player's coach, but as an offensive player, I wouldn't go there. He has no clue about the offense. He has no clue what we're doing on that side of the ball. He's shown how inept he is when it comes to the offense. He's Bill Belichick 2.0. I know there's a lot of Tomlin and Pittsburgh fans that would absolutely scream at me about that, but what have you won? What have you won? You've got a great defense. Congratulations. What happens if you can't pay for them? You haven't been able to run the ball. You haven't been able to do anything else. Aaron Rodgers still hasn't signed with you. You're staring down having to draft Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart just to have a quarterback at this point, unless you're going to run with Mason Rudolph, which, you know what, by all means, go ahead. Then my, under pick for you gets even more secured. Because right now, I think Vegas is still expecting you to sign Rodgers. But Seth McLaughlin, actually, I think the Steelers could really do good to draft McLaughlin. Honestly, I think it'd be a great pick for McLaughlin. But we'll see. All right, so I want to do two sleeper guys. Two guys that I think could be day 5 or round 5, round 6. I want to give you guys two sleeper guys. Drew Kendall from Boston College. He is amazing in the screen game. He is amazing in playing the screen game. When you watch Boston College play, and on their screens, he does a fantastic job of selling a play and then getting out in front. He is very agile, very quick on his feet. He's only 300 pounds, but he's 6'4". So he's not outrageously big, but he's tall. I think he is a sleeper for a team that, once again, just needs depth. But look out for him to end up being on a team like Buffalo, like Baltimore, Philly, like the Chiefs. Injuries happen where he could fill in, and I think he would fit in great if he's not having to be an anchor. He is one of my sleepers at the center position, Drew Kendall. Another sleeper for me is, excuse me, Eli Cox from Kentucky. Now, we get to watch a lot of games. I've watched the SEC forever. What I like about Eli Cox is his ability to move around. I think anybody would be happy to have a guy that could come in and play both guard spots and the center. His strength may actually be guard more than center at the NFL level. That very well may be the case. But he's very smart. Very smart. He will do exactly what you're asked to do on the offensive line. I think he can get beat by certain blitzes, but what young offensive linemen can't. We're not going to judge them off of that. The reality is, I think he has that potential, same way as, like Drew Kendall. I think team will matter with them. He gets to an established team, Philadelphia, the Rams. The Niners, I think, would benefit from drafting Eli Cox or Drew Kendall. Like, there are teams that are very aware of the depth needed on their offensive line because of injuries. So those are a few guys, obviously the top 3 guys, and then 2 sleepers. We're going to do the same thing when it comes to the guards. So when you're looking at guards, there's always one. There's always one that everybody's kind of looking at. And for me, that's Tyler Booker. I think he is hands down the number 1 guard there is. Hands down the number 1 guard. I don't really think it's that close. And I think it's because I'm comfortable with him on both sides. Left guard, right guard. He's big, 6'5", 325 pounds. I think he does fit. Look for if he's there at the end of the first round. And this is my sleeper one. This is my sleeper for this. I think the Lions draft him. They lost Kevin Zeitler in free agency to the Titans. Drafting a guy like Tyler Booker at guard would give you a complete replacement for what you lost, if not an upgrade when it comes to the run game. Now, I don't know what the Detroit Lion offense is going to look like. I do know this. If it changes too much, it will fail. Jared Goff needs Gibbs and Montgomery to run the ball. That is a fact. If they draft Tyler Booker, if he's there, that would be huge. And it would be the right pick. That would give them a cheap offensive lineman for 5 years again. Their cap nightmare starts in 2 years when they hit the back end of all these contracts. Then they will have to start making cutting decisions, and the team will not be the same. For now, that would give them the flexibility. Cheap offensive linemen, cheap and productive is always the way to go. Tyler Booker would be great in the Detroit Lions. He would also be great with the Baltimore Ravens. Ronnie Stanley stays. Lindenbaum's already obviously there. I think he'd be great with the Ravens as well. Now, if you're going to go earlier, the Bengals could really benefit from Tyler Booker. But the Bengals need defense. I know they need offensive line, but they need defense, then they need offensive line, then they need defense, and then they need defense again, then they need offensive line, and at some point they're going to have to draft a running back. I just think he's going to fall because of the needs of the defense and how strong the defensive position is for this draft. I think the Lions could get him. I think the Commanders could get him. Like, there are a lot of teams down at the bottom of that draft. I think this plays out for him. All right, the second one, Tate Rutledge from Georgia and his teammate, Dylan Fairchild. Here's the thing with both of these guys. They really do remind, both of them play kind of like Will Fry's just got a big contract for Minnesota. They overpaid for him. There's no doubt about that. But let's just go with the free agents because everybody's making move in free agency for what they don't think they can get in the draft. I think the potential for both of these gentlemen here is Kevin Zeitler, Will Fries. They're not going to be Quentin Nelson. Not a chance. They're not going to be an upper echelon guy. I mean, they're not going to turn into a, Joe Tooney at guard and play. I don't think that's really the potential. Jonah Jackson, Will Fries, Kevin Zeitler. I think that's right around where the potential is for both of these guys. If they can stay healthy, if they get coached up at the next level, which means they can be really solid. They can be really, really productive. But once again, monotone guys. That's why you don't hear them talked about that much. But they're monotone. Tyler Booker, I think, could run people over. I think he's got that ability. If he's in that offense, that right offense, he will be given the ability to just run people over. He will be told, you see the guy in front of you, push him to the end zone. And Tyler Booker could do it. Rutledge and Fairchild, that's not what they're going to do. They're just going to be consistent. They're going to do their job. All right, so those are the top three. Now I'm going to give you a couple sleepers. A player that I watched in quite a few games this year, and it showed up in the USC game. Offensive guard from Minnesota, Tyler Cooper. He is 6'6", but only 310 pounds. But he is really tall. And when you watch the games with Minnesota, which Minnesota had a couple of really big... Minnesota played a lot of close games. Cooper was very sound in his pass blocking technique. Now, what the problem is when you start talking about these schools, like there's an offensive guard from Jacksonville State, Clay Webb. You got guards from Charlotte, Cincinnati on here. They just don't get the same look. And because it's a smaller school, and unfortunately, even in the top NFL circles, well, if you came from a smaller school, that you didn't play against the greatest competition, so you can't be that great. That is a bunch of hogwash. It always has been, and it always will be. We have seen more top-end school flameouts than we've seen small school flameouts. Because the small school guys don't get drafted early, and they don't get the same opportunity. Mentally, you aren't required to give them the same opportunity. Josh Allen comes from Wyoming. You redraft that draft, he's going number 1. Josh Allen is not falling in that draft. He's going number 1. A guy that is coachable, that is 100% devoted to the community. He just signed a contract that does not strap the Buffalo Bills. He signed a contract like Mahomes did, where he's there forever, but he doesn't cost anything. He still costs less than Tua. Josh Allen is getting paid less than Tua, and Josh Allen's the one in the AFC Championship games. These guys aren't the ones that have been spoon-fed. It's a cliche, but the reality is when you're at the top level, you're given all the hype, you're given all the publicity, and it gets in your head. And normally, you can't really reach that potential. But then you're a Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, then okay, there's something else there. Yeah, it's called being a football player. They were good at football. Tyler Cooper is good at the technicalities of the position. He's not the fastest. He's definitely not the biggest. He is one of the tallest, but he's not the biggest. But I think as one of my sleeper picks, probably day 3, maybe late day 2, but I think day 3 for sure. Tyler Cooper will go to a team. He will create depth on that offensive line that is needed. I think he fits with what the Bears do, because I think he's going to fit. Ben Johnson will help the offensive line more than what people are saying. You need a backup for Joe Thuney. You absolutely need a backup for Joe Thuney. So Cooper could absolutely be it. Now, another guy, most people did not get to watch him very often. They would this year, because I know Bill Belichick is going to have North Carolina. Willie Lampkin, the guard from North Carolina. This guy is Jeff Saturday 2.0. When you watch him play, he screams that he could be drafted potentially in the 3rd round, but he is so short compared to everybody else. It's really hilarious. He's only 5'11", 290 pounds, and I know there's going to be people that are really worried about both of those aspects. But sometimes you just get a player that goes against the grain. Now, I think they may be able to move him to center. There's a lot of people that are confused about him because they don't know what to make. Will it work? Will it not? Can he hold up? You know what? Guys that get told that they can't for a long time normally just have that chip on their shoulder that gives them the ability to do it. They may not be the best at it, but it just gives them the ability to go do it. I think Vrabel would take a chance on him. I think the Patriots could draft him. If he's not day 2, I'd say early day 3. 4th round pick, Willie Lampkin, guard, North Carolina. He's absolutely a sleeper to me. So Tyler Cooper from Minnesota, Willie Lampkin from North Carolina, and then the top 3 guards, Booker, absolutely. I think he should be picked in the top 20. I do think as a guard, he will be that dominant. And then you got Rattledge and Fairchild from Georgia. All right, here we go. Offensive tackles. We're doing the top 5 offensive tackles here. We are absolutely going to do the top 5 offensive tackles. So there is a lot of controversy over these tackles because of one silly thing. Arm length. When I watch the tape between the 2 guys, we're going to go between the 2 top 5 relatively quick here so we can finish it on time. Kelvin Banks, to me, is going to be a guy that is more of a tackle less of a guard. He's going to have to get better with his hands. His hands get really short a lot. I don't think he's going to be able to be guard very often. Guys can get into his body. When you watch the tapes against the top teams, defenders, rushers get into Banks' body pretty quickly. He lets his arms come in, and then he loses his leverage. He doesn't keep his hands out front. That is something in big games you can see. Against lesser competition, yeah, he looks fantastic. Will Campbell's arm length is the only dang thing that has been questioned. He looks like a starter on tape. He looks like a starter in person. He talks like a starter and an NFL star for years to come. And his response to, if it was actually a problem, I wouldn't have been starting in the SEC at LSU. And he is gosh darn right. He is 6'6", 325 pounds. He can be moved between guard and tackle. And there are multiple teams that I think would really benefit from Will Campbell. I believe, and I've got the bet on it, Will Campbell will be the first offensive lineman drafted. There is no reason that the arm length thing even comes into play, because a lot of these rushers now are rushing into you. They're trying to get to your shoulder. Arm length doesn't matter there. What matters is once he gets to here, can you push him off? And arm length isn't going to be what does that. It's going to be whether or not you are technically sound. And between the two, Will Campbell, to me, is more technically sound than Kelvin Banks. So Will Campbell is number 1 for me. Banks is number 2, but both of them can be drafted in the top 12, and both of them deserve it. I know there was a question like, would you really actually draft a guard with a top 10 pick? Is that really worth it? And I'm like, are you an idiot? There's people that think Banks can play 4 of the 5 positions and Will Campbell the same. You're not drafting a guard. You're drafting a guy that can move on your offensive line if you need him to. That's what you believe. And go ask the Colts how well Quentin Nelson at number 4 or number 6 worked out. It worked out pretty gosh darn well. If you need an anchor on your offensive line, those two guys can do it. I think Campbell's better, but Banks, I think, can be a long-time starter at tackle. But Campbell, to me, I would play him at guard. I would actually play him at guard. I originally thought there was a potential for him to play with Jacksonville, but I think Jacksonville is going to go weapon. I think that's why they made the trades they did. I think Jacksonville goes weapon. That's my thought. So I don't think it's necessarily offensive line. But what if the Raiders do? You know, and I did. I told you guys after my running back, I did put the bet down on Ashton Genty being the number 2 pick in the draft. Nobody's talking about it. If Cleveland does it, I know there's going to be some people that say it's a reach, but they need a running back. They need a quarterback. They need a running back, but they just signed Flacco. And they've got Kenny Pickett. And they've got Deshaun Watson still on the roster. This is kind of like the Giants situation. I think Shedeur Sanders is really going to potentially fall. Like this could end up being great for teams that are just teetering. And I read a thing on X the other day where a Saints fan was like, I feel like we're going to be forced into drafting Shedeur. Forced? You need a quarterback. Kellen Moore, I still think Jackson Dart would be better. But if Shedeur Sanders, the best thing that could happen in the draft is Shedeur Sanders starts falling. Because that will be the narrative all the rest of the day until he gets drafted. But at that point, once you get outside the top 10, then you're talking about there will be teams that trade up to get him. Why? He's worth that pick. He is worth that pick. It's a quarterback that you know at least has NFL moxie. It's that simple. We know who's going number 1, but it's great that number 2 all the way to 32, we have no flipping clue. All right, so the third tackle. Let's see if we can close this out in 2.5 minutes. So the third tackle is the offensive tackle from Missouri, Armand Membo. I think he's just going to be straight up decent. He reminds me a lot of Anthony Costanzo and how he blocks, how he looks when he blocks. A lot like Cam Robinson. He is definitely better than DJ Humphries. So if he falls to the Chiefs, that would be a great pick for their tackle position. But I don't think he falls that far. He probably goes somewhere, Seattle, potentially Arizona. I think he goes middle of the first round, and he's 100% worth it. Another guy, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. He absolutely is one of the most technical offensive linemen, I would say right behind Will Campbell. And when it comes to technical skills, Zabel is the second most technical skilled offensive tackle in this draft. Bar none. It is Will Campbell, Gray Zabel, and it's fun watching non-main, I'm going to call it top level college football and watching North Dakota State. It's fun watching them rampage people. It was fun watching him, but his technicality is so strong. Like, you remember Michael Orr at Mississippi? He was just good because he took care of the technicalities. He was a technical blocker. He goes to the Ravens, has a good career. Technical blocker. Zabel is the same way. 6'6", 305 pounds, so not overly big. They could move him into guard on some different lines, but I think tackle works for him. I think he could be an easy day 2 pick, late second, early third. He may even get day 1. I don't think so. But he may even get day 1, but I think day 2, he will definitely be off the board. All right, now my fifth one, there's a few guys here. Josh Simmons from Ohio State, Wyatt Milliam from West Virginia, but I like Josh Connerly from Oregon the best. His ability to block the last few years, watching Oregon grow, it's a lot because of Josh Connerly. Josh Connerly has been a stalwart on that offensive line, 6'4", 315 pounds. I put him above Josh Simmons. The injuries with Simmons really do bother me, the way that they are, how they happen. I don't know if Simmons can stay healthy. I think Connerly is a better pass blocker than Milliam from West Virginia. So that's why I put him at 5th. I believe he is plenty good enough to be an early, mid-day 2 pick. And he will come in and he has the potential to start immediately. He can start immediately. He may need a little bit of help from a mentor, somebody on the offensive line that can go, all right, here we go. Let's go work on your technical skills. Let's go work on just getting the guy off of you. A lot of these guys in college, the only issue they have is when they go up against high class talent, they let them get into their body too fast. And it's the same in the NFL. That's how you get beat all the time, and that's how you get bull rushed so easily. We're going to go drills. Knock their hands down. Get them off of you. Make them work harder than you have to work. And don't give up. I absolutely think Connerly can be a guard at the next level as well. Move him into guard. I think he fits in zone run schemes very well. And, the Rams could draft him. You're looking at teams like potentially even the Browns, day 2. You could go the Dolphins. They need a lot of offensive line help. I like Connerly. Tackle, guard, options. It works. It absolutely works. All right, guys. There we go. Offensive line. The next one's going to be defensive line because it's also got plenty. And we're going to have to dissect everything between the edge rusher, defensive end, tackle. What does it all work as? So the next one will be the defensive line. And then we'll see where we go from there. But I appreciate you guys hanging out. Monday is done. Make it the best Tuesday that you can. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. Until then, make sure to subscribe, like the podcast, and hey, throw your own comments down on the bottom. I love certain guys because I love guys that can be technical at the next level because you don't teach technical skills as easily as you do the broad skills. If you're technically sound, you can easily build on top of it. That is a foundation that you can build a house on. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Have a great rest of your evening. See you tomorrow. For Sports Talk with Hawk, I'm Hawk, and I'm out. Have a good night.